Right, so basically what happened with the march is I've been doing speeches every week at different places in Scotland, and the guy that's organising it, he is actually a councillor, and he appeared at the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I met him, and I
Right.
told the person who he's organising this event with that he was speaking some things that may not be true about the virus, about the tests and stuff like this. And she said that she knew basically there was no virus going around, but everyone's got to have their opinion. So anyway, this guy was then putting out a poll on the Facebook group, who else should be a speaker? And I mean, basically my videos and my pictures are all over, this event in the weeks leading up to this, and he's not including me. He's not putting me in the poll, and basically never invited me. No one's, just excluding me, because what I would say would be obviously different to what they had these main speakers there. So I was watching it on Facebook today, watched the whole event. It's just torture watching it, knowing that there's a wasted opportunity, and it's bullshit, and everyone's waving, oh yeah, and it's a lot of hot air.
Of course it is. Of course it's the enemy. It's how the enemy works. They put someone in there to control the dialogue, and look what happens.
Well, I basically think it's very suspicious.
You know who it is. Yeah, it's suspicious. But you've identified who the problem is, obviously.
Well, there was another guy who runs a kind of meet-up group, and he had issues with this councillor guy, and basically he never went to it either because of me and him had a chat, and basically we agree that he's probably co-opting the thing and
co-intel.
Yeah, and now basically the BBC News and stuff and all these evening news at Edinburgh, and they're all talking about this thing, and they had to get permission to do it, and in every half hour they had to say no social distancing, and then they had to finish it early because the police told them. It was like, well, now we have to go to Parliament, and we're just following all these rules that the government are telling us to do to have our protest, and it's just, yeah, it's just
frustrating, huh?
Yeah. People are trying to protest all this, but at the same time, they're still obeying all the orders. And, it's like there's no real alternative to actually what's going on. They still talk about the economy as if it's real. They talk about, they're still totally within the system, trying to stop it from within it.
Inside the box, yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna rely on the same people that created the problem to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they won't change the problem. They'll just make minor adjustments and make you feel better about it.
Well, we're even past the point that they're even pretending to appease us now. It's just like we're doing this and there's nothing you can do about it. And these guys think they can still fight it the normal way, and we're going to stop this bill and, freedom, and everybody's like, yeah! It just means nothing, Same as David Icke, he done it the week before in London. I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
So that was rabble-rousing. There's no real solution. Just like, off your knees, freedom! Whoa! There's no real,
no solution.
No point. There's no, the enemy is very well organised, and they have a plan. They have police, they have armies, they have guns, of all this shit in place. And we're just a lot of people, cows just mooing in the field, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a few theories about what it is, looking at how the people are working and all that, and I'm becoming to come to the realization that these humans, these rank and file, the people that we're talking about here, they're all looking for a hero, and we're being offered all these fake heroes.
Yeah.
Like David Icke. Last week, David Icke, a lot of people posted that stuff and said, "Oh, this guy's a legend. Thank God for David Icke," and all this nonsense. And it's like you said, they didn't do anything. All he did was try to harness our energy and waste it.
Yeah.
And make the people think they did something when they did nothing.
Yep.
And that's David Icke is such a perfect example, because here's a guy that really does have the credentials, whether they're real or not, and he does have the listenership, and he does have the ability to inspire these people, and look at what he does with it.
Yeah.
He just tries to make money, and there's no direction. And yet he knows better. That's the problem.
That's just what I was going to say. What do you think about the fact that he released that book that basically exposed the reptiles, Children of the Matrix, or whatever it was called, back in the day, But he done it in such a sensationalist way. I think it put a lot of people off and thought, looking into it now, you think a reptile, you think David Icke, you think crazy. But then he was talking about it back then, so why is he not talking about it now? Why is he not saying, look, they're real, they're down there? Why is that suddenly off the agenda? But in the past he was mentioning it.
Well, I certainly am too busy to try to worry about what his MO is as far as how he plans to do what he's trying to do. But it's hard to say. It could be because it caused a lot of derision and discredited him, and now he's moved on. I mean, the Queenslow lizard, that was his big thing, basically. And I think for him, it's a matter of marketing, of course. It's whatever sells at the moment. And, of course, the energy is into the whole human trafficking and child sex slave pedophilia issue. And naturally, that's our issue. And he's got to, as a pseudo COINTEL figurehead, fake hero for the masses, it's his job to get up there and try to seize the reins of this issue and steer it in a safe direction. Unlike us, we're trying to steer it into the Getty, and they're doing everything they, it's not like David Icke doesn't know about the Getty. That's the thing. That's how you know he's a fake.
Yep. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So if he knows about the reptiles, he knows they're underground, he knows the entrance to it, so why isn't he mentioning it?
Yeah. Why not? Why do these people have so much problem? I mean, the bunkers, it's like Kerry Cassidy did an interview also recently with your friend. We talked about this last week. And that CIA guy, and they talked about bunkers, and yet nobody's talking about the Getty. It's not, we had that one big fake thing that took place here not too long ago where they were trying to tell people to converge upon Area 51 out in the middle of Nevada in the desert. And of course, this was ridiculous. It's a secure military compound with guys with machine guns and everything running around. But that's the difference about the Getty. The Getty is not supposed to be a secure military compound. I mean, even if it is, it's a museum. So we're trying to expose that. That's the whole purpose of this.
Yeah.
That's the weakness of their entire underground bunker system. So why wouldn't you zero in on that weakness?
Well, basically, I've been talking about the Getty at every talk, or certainly not. I think the first one never mentioned the Getty, but I mentioned the tunnels and the underground thing. But every other talk, so I reckon the people doing the Scottish thing, they've obviously looked, because I've posted my talks on YouTube, and if I'm mentioning that, somebody said to them, didn't they invite him? Because
they're thinking lizard. They're thinking, oh, here's the lizard guy. He's going to talk about lizard. And he's like, how much am I getting paid? I mean, seriously, this thing that took place, whatever you want to call it, a rally, you don't think he got paid for that? He must have gotten paid.
Well, he claims he's doing the goodness of his heart. Some people are genuinely kind of militant and believe in all that stuff,
Yeah. Well,
but he was a politician.
What
He's
do you think?
Well, I don't get a good feeling.
He sells books.
I was talking about the Scottish politician, but David Icke, he's getting paid for everything. Apparently, somebody told me he done a talk. Somebody was doing a talk in a place and they never asked for anything, so they never got paid anything. But David Icke, for doing a talk in the same place previously, got something like $30,000 or something ridiculous.
Some ridiculous amount. Oh my gosh. One time I was doing this thing on Press TV, and it was during the right before the United States was going to start bombing Syria, and they had this guy on there who I was supposed to debate with, and this guy was like a vice president of Raytheon, and I did a little research on him right before the interview, and I found out that he had just, he was a wealthy person and had all this money. In other words, as soon as the bombs started falling, he was going to make incredible amounts of money. So, of course, his position was we need to protect the Kurds, we need to punish Syria, et cetera, and all that bullshit. But the thing is with it, his level of evil was such that I was kind of like in shock. I was like in awe of his evil. Like, God, how do you talk to that? I should have just been chastising him, but I'm like, oh my God, you're like one of the most evil people I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that out there, I think.
Yeah, it's just when you've got a certain mindset and you see the world a certain way, it's just so hard to believe that there's people who would have these intentions, and just such lack of empathy and just pure, psychopathy.
Greed. Well, it's
That's
greed
greed.
ultimately, I
Yeah,
think. Ego and greed, sure. But, I mean, well, in that situation, certainly it was greed because these guys, they don't care how many people die. They're just, all they can think about is their stock dividends and their bonuses and their growth of their portfolio. It's like, oh my God. Anyway.
So,
but yeah, David Icke's very disappointing. Very disappointing.
what about these actual movements, the so-called movements everyone now thinks they're in? All these housewives are anti-vaccine, so they've joined a movement. They found out a little bit about conspiracy, and now they're screaming about Bill Gates. There's people easily led, because me and you have obviously been looking at all this stuff for quite a number of years, so they're just easily led, these people. So it's, even though they've got good intentions.
Well, that's not a bad thing per se. I mean, there's a lot of those people are listening right now and are going to be listening to the video, and certainly, and I think that I think that the efforts that they're making to spread awareness, especially to save our children stuff, is very noble. But at the same time, yeah, they have to be aware that these quasi-masculine hero figures that get stuck up there are COINTEL, and are certainly not there to further the cause. So we can only hope that people will see through this. And but I think that the best way to combat that is to do a better job. Okay, I used to, I mean, obviously I'm not such a great example of that anymore, but I remember when I first started doing this, I used to tell people the best way to override or overshadow another competitor per se that is putting out a message is to have a better message. So in other words, you're not talking crap about Alex Jones or David Icke. You're having a message that will appeal and resonate with everyone at a much higher level. And obviously, of course, we have censorship, and we have all these other hurdles that we have to go through. So in other words, no matter how good our message is, that's just the way it is. But even if our message was good, we would never really have the ability to gauge that. In other words, we'd be thinking, oh God, I'm doing so terrible. I'm not accomplishing anything, when in reality, we were probably reaching a lot more people than we thought. So I think, like you're feeling frustrated right now because of these bastards at this movement. Yeah, what a wasted opportunity. But you had to know that was going to happen, right?
Yeah. Well, when they said, this is us just getting started, they said that to me. I was like, well, I'm wanting to end it. I don't want this to be an ongoing thing for my ego to make me look good or whatever. I want this to end so we can go on with, being nice to each other.
Paradise, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, but that's still pretty fresh, I think, and I'm disappointed too, because certainly, like you said, having the opportunity to get that in front of cameras and stuff like that is good. But this is where the grassroots, if you will, comes in. In other words, even if they get in your way, you're one person, but if you have a lot of other people and you've influenced other people and you've, like a guerrilla movement, you're out there and you've got your signs and you're taking over the movement. And then at the same time, even if you're on the complete outside of the whole thing, you can still take what you can from it, like grab images and modify those images and create memes and things and do whatever. In other words, just like the enemy is constantly trying to hijack our dialogue and hijack our efforts, we have to completely be ready to one-up them and do exactly the same thing. In other words, if they're hijacking it from us, we hijack it back.
Yeah.
It's really all we can do.
I mean, I was listening to your last talk where, the week before you were quite upbeat, and then we've lost the Facebook group for 26,000, and then you seemed a bit more downbeat because, your number's only like 700 and stuff. And that's the frustrating part. When you do look at the numbers, and they control all the means of, media, and we're so small compared to the powers that they've got, and they can ban us and, censor us whenever they feel like it, essentially, and it's just so.
Well, of course, we're working within their arena, and they created these tools, and we're using their tools against them So certainly, it's only logical that sooner or later they would get smart and figure out how to stop that from happening. So I'm not too surprised or upset about that. I mean, obviously, yes, you're right. The first week of case, like I said in my last show, this was kind of a downer and frustrating. But I got to say right now, though, and this is an ongoing thing that everybody has to become aware of, and it was really something I kind of wanted to talk about tonight, was that it's that high and low thing, that roller coaster ride. You have to recognize that you are on a roller coaster ride, or you're in a little boat going downstream, and you're being, the extremes of everything are increasing. And again, if you listen to the last show, we compared it to a sine wave, where it's like a radio signal, where you have frequency and you have amplitude. And what we have happening to us right now, I believe, is that our frequency is increasing and our amplitude is increasing as we go down this sine wave. And it's much higher energy, so we're having higher highs and higher lows, and we're having that more often. And I think that's part of this growth thing that we're having to go through. And I think that it's really key to breaking out of this the restraints of this reality that we're in. Much like a laser has to increase its frequency before it will actually penetrate the optics that on the tube. I mean, all right, let me just explain to you how a laser works real quick. This is an old-fashioned laser, of course, but basically you have a cavity, and what that is like, it's sort of like a fluorescent light tube, only on one end you have a mirror, and the other end you have another mirror that might have a slightly concave edge. Now, this mirror isn't 100% reflective. It's made to only let a certain frequency through, a relatively higher frequency. So what happens is when they introduce this light, the light's basically going back and forth between the mirror, and they keep introducing more light. And what's happening is it's increasing its frequency. And pretty soon, the frequency reaches a point to where it actually pierces the cavity mirror and produces a single coherent beam of a specific wavelength of light.
Interesting.
But in order to do that, it needs to achieve a high frequency to penetrate the cavity. And the Earth works the same way, sort of, because we have a big magnetic field around the globe, which is what they call the Van Allen belt, and that's like our cavity. So I suspect that our energy has to go through some incredible high frequency upgrades in order to be able to penetrate the shield, so to speak, or the cavity mirror, which is our Van Allen.
You heard of somebody called Greg Braden? I'm sure you heard of him. He had the he had the book that was called Awakening to Zero Point. Is that something like what you're talking about, kind of?
Well, I don't read his stuff. All I know is that he's into his hair and he lives in Hawaii, and he makes some serious ass buck off his self-help nonsense. I give books away. He sells them for shitloads of money. What can I tell you? I don't get over like he does.
It's just a good, like somebody else I was listening to recently was going to talk about.
You don't either, man. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't make any money. I'll certainly go to a hairstylist.
And you don't live in Hawaii, I don't think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Palm trees and beaches.
Well, I did live in Antalya, Turkey, and I brought my son back to Bo'ness, and he's just moved back to Antalya, Turkey. He said it was like imagine living in Los Angeles and then coming to like a small Scottish suburban town. It's like, for a young kid, it's like, get me back to LA.
Exactly. Get me back, yeah. Yeah, the culture, the
beach, the waves, the sun.
It's
left me here. It's left me stuck in Bo'ness.
Well, if you like grass and
That's
fog
and
rain and, meadow, a lot of that, sheep, whatever. But, yeah, Turkey, what can I say? Well, we're not going to get into Turkey tonight, but no, these self-help guys, I think the lesson here, one of the biggest lessons tonight, especially from what you started out talking about with your experience with the thing, was that like I said before so many times, at least 99% of all these people out there that are having some sort of leadership role or some sort of a I mean, they're in the forefront of our movement,
Oh yeah.
are full of it. They're either completely corrupt, or they're there just for the money, or both. Some degree of both. And unfortunately, your Greg Bradens of the world, even though he may have released some pearls to the world, ultimately he's one of those guys that's just doing it for the money. Now I know there's another one like him, Wayne
Bruce
Dwyer.
Lipton,
You know him, Wayne Dwyer. He's just another one of them. It's like Larry Canfield and Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's the guy that started it all. And Louise Hayes, the same thing. It's all about the money. And if you look at like a guy like Larry Canfield or whatever his name was, he'll tell you it's like a get-rich-quick scheme. The whole book is like, look, you may be a complete loser. You could have been an orphan like Dwyer. You could have nothing going on whatsoever, but just through sheer determination and positive outlook and the ability to manifest a better life, you could become this guru leader for all these people that need such things. Now, that's all these people are, and they're doing it for money. Louise Hayes, same thing.
What about Napoleon Hill? He wrote that Think and Grow Rich, where he studied all the businessmen.
Exactly. Think and Grow Rich. I mean, then there's The Secret.
Who's that lady who channeled that person?
Gosh, I don't know.
No, there was a lady who channeled. She does all these talks. She was like the main person behind The Secret. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know.
There's another one.
I could care less, but obviously that's there's a convention here in Los Angeles. It's every year, and it's like the biggest metaphysical convention there is once a year. I mean, they have these things all over, but this one is called the Conscious Life thing. Of course, I have a standing invitation to go to the thing, because of press, of course. But the thing is that I know the people that put the event on, and I know a lot of the people that speak there, obviously. And I'm certainly, if I went there, there would be a lot of people who knew who I was. But the problem is, though, is that I'm not there for the money. I'm not there to make money. I'm not there to take money from people. I'm not there to sell something. And as such, they don't have any place for me because in other words, it's like David Wilcock. David Wilcock and Corey Good are a perfect example of two guys that were like the headliners for this event, because people would come from all over. They'd stay in the hotel and spend all kinds of money just to hear these con men spew bullshit. And that was the big money maker for the whole
So it's just a business idea, and it's basically, let's get a convention, make money from that, use them to sell your books, let's promote ourselves, basically, and don't give a shit if people take on the teachings and learn it or not.
No, they don't. Conscious life, it's like, what is that? That's like, love and light. If all you fuzzy people out there, we're having a convention for fuzzy people where you can come and feel good and spend your money and buy crystals and such, and listen to people tell you empowering things. But I go there and I'm like, there's 100,000 kids over the Getty. Do you care? No, that doesn't.
Exactly.
Where's the money in that?
That would bring an end to their party.
Exactly. I'm like, here we are at the LA. Let's see, they're doing it to Hilton. I think it is on Century Boulevard, not too far from the airport in Los Angeles. And I'd be like, I'm sorry, you guys. Right down the freeway, right over there. If you look, you can kind of
maybe
see.
Taking a visit. Let's go.
Yeah, it's like, let's all go take a field trip over here and tell them what we think about this stuff. It's like, nobody wants to hear that.
Abraham Hicks was the one I was thinking of. You know that?
Yeah. They would channel
Abraham.
Who? I don't know. Yeah, Abraham. Okay, him.
Well,
and
his wife is the channeler,
right?
I think.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, so whatever. All right, Abraham. Again, that's more bullshit. I mean, my God. I mean, I've seen I've seen what's his face, Paul Anka's brother, get up there and do his. Who is he channel that? I mean, my God, Anka. He channels. What's that guy? Oh, who does Paul Anka channel? Anka, come on now. Never mind. Anyway, he's one of the more famous ones. God, I can't remember. I did a damn. Speaking of it, Terry Cassidy was there.
So
who are some of the more famous things?
I've done a course with Richard Bandler, the guy behind NLP. What's your view? Well, basically, my wife is having some health issues, mental health issues, and I thought I was just learning different things. Well, at the time, I was going through different things. I was quite young, so I was learning what is. Oh yeah.
Sure.
So just learning what is meditation. I've gone to Buddhism. I tried NLP. I tried ayahuasca and these different things. So anyway, yeah. What do you think about Richard Bandler? It was for us both because I thought it was quite useful in one way because you kind of.
Well, you don't want to talk about this on the air, man. I mean, if you want a healing...
No, I'm not talking about I'm just talking about, for me, I thought it was useful for learning certain modalities.
Well, it's the same thing. Okay, I'm just telling you, what you're looking for right now can be achieved.
Okay, so what's your viewpoint on Richard Bandler and NLP? That's what I want to ask anyway, that kind of stuff.
Well, first of all, NLP is typically used by people that are trying to manipulate others and
that's what I didn't like about
con them out of something.
Basically, that's why I got an NLP Master Practitioner certificate and just never used it. I just thought it was interesting to know, but then I thought it's far too manipulative, and everyone was there just there for business, so they can get you to buy their shit.
It's, either way you're looking at it, it's manipulating, totally. It's mind control. Yeah. So. Screw those guys.
But you do have a quite a spiritual philosophy. How would you describe your spiritual? I know you believe in Jesus and stuff like that, but do you have a kind of belief system, or do you have just a connection to God?
You ask me if I have some sort of a humanistic hero control structure that is controlling.
Have you been into religions in the past and stuff? Have you? All right. Say no more.
All right.
So you were a Catholic when you were younger?
But, yeah, well, such as it is.
Nothing to be proud of.
Well, I mean, all right, look, I didn't like going to church and all that, right? Okay. And as I got older, of course, I couldn't go to church because I'd sit there and like, bullshit. So you can't take me in there like.
That's what I'm like just now because I've been at my work and they had these COVID teams coming around, inspecting like if everybody's wearing their mask and all this stuff and how far these wash basins are apart and I'm like I can't help myself from speaking out.
Somebody needs to take a bat and just sneak out when they're leaving the building.
It's shocking. Imagine doing that for a job, and it's just.
Well, that's the thing. There's if there wasn't such a proliferation of stupid people willing to do anything for money, we wouldn't have this issue because a normal human would say, you know what, this is a Nazi bullshit. There should be nobody that would want to do this.
I walked right up to the manager, two or three different ones, and just said, this is bullshit. And they're like, the company wants it, so the company's getting it. I was like, but you're look what you're doing in the future, your children's future, what you're introducing. There's got to be a line where people actually say, the company doesn't want our good health.
Well, you know what? You're going to have to use the reverse psychology on these idiots, okay? You can't fight them like that. Okay, you got to make them think it's a bad thing by telling them it's a good thing. Okay? All right? You go there, it's like, wow. I'll tell you, this stuff that they're doing right now with the mask and the distancing and all that, this is awesome. I mean, I couldn't, even under Hitler, I couldn't imagine anything this awesome, I
knew Hitler
was way better than Hitler, man. You guys, Sig Heil, my brother, fucking hey, you guys, you're more Nazi than any fucking Nazi I've seen, bitch.
Charlie Freak was right. Hitler was great, and this is just making it better.
Well, fuck him and all that. Hitler was great. All right, I don't. You know what? Hitler, whatever. You know, fucking. He was what he was. He's dead. Hopefully, yeah, he's dead. He probably died in '58, but that's okay. But oh God, you see, look at what you did. You just made two human references that were really bad. Charlie Freak says it was great. It's like fuck the bulls. You know. Anyway, so
I mean, have you seen that documentary,
what else?
The Greatest Story Never Told?
Oh, come on now. I'm not into that Nazi stuff.
I
don't know anything about that.
That was the one that made me think. Obviously, we don't get the full truth at any time, so it's just a different viewpoint.
All right. Well, yeah, but you got to remember, when I was doing the whole NSA thing, when I had my big falling out with the NSA, that was sort of like the same thing. In other words, it's like, sure, you could say the America has done some great things, and they certainly are better than other people with respect to certain things. But at the same time, if you're going around thinking that they're perfect and they can't do anything wrong, and everything they do is righteous, you're a damn idiot. And if you think that they never do anything wicked and evil, and that only the enemy is the ones that are doing things that are wicked and evil, and you think that the enemy isn't capable of doing anything good, again, you're fucking wrong. And that's the problem that people can't realize. It's that yin and yang, and the fact that there's no such thing. There's no such thing in good and evil, because it's somebody at one point is playing that role of one versus someone playing the role of the other. And one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So it's in other words, it's like that judgment thing. If you're going to be enlightened, elevated, you have to be able to get past these layers.
Is it like about like embracing the shadow, somehow? Because
no, not. It's not like that. It's like enlightenment. Okay, it's like being aware, and it's like becoming an observer. Okay, it's very important to become an observer, because obviously, if you're going to become enlightened, you have to know all this stuff, and you have to be able to observe it without freaking out, without getting depressed, excited. In other words, you have to maintain this even emotional level as you're absorbing all this really nasty shit.
So like sort of reminded me of Mr. Spock, who basically, didn't show any emotion, but do you not think that's a human quality? Is like being quite emotional. We don't want to lose that kind of.
No, that's not it at all. There's nothing wrong with emotion. Obviously, love is extremely important. But at the same time, when we recognize that there's two sides of the coin, and that we have negative emotions, and that we have loosh, which is actually the nutrition of our enemy, and that's negative human emotional psychic energy. So that's not so great. But what the point is that you need to be able to control it. So in other words, just like you need to not be able to be disturbed by some bit of information, you also have to be able to work at not producing loosh, because some extraneous environmental thing is causing you to become upset, so you're getting angry. You got to control that, because it's going to affect your not just your loosh production, but also your ability to run energy through your body, because it can cause blockages in your chakras. But the main thing is that it inhibits your ability to learn and to grow, because again, you're instead of being like a computer, which does not have emotion, which is capable of retaining and absorbing vast amounts of information, you have to be the same way. If you are absorbing information, all of a sudden some little bit of information comes through and you go, oh, that's terrible, and it causes you to break down, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's where being an observer or a sponge, a learner, requires that you.
Well, it's basically lots of books about 10 years ago were written about emotional intelligence. It's kind of that idea. Yeah.
Says the same thing.
And I do actually. I'm like that generally. I try and watch things, rather than get involved. I kind of like to be on the outside. And I say to people when I was teaching in schools, used to say to the children, "Well, how many ears do you have?" And it's like 2 ears. How many mouths? One mouth. What does that mean? You should listen twice as much as you talk. too many people are basically wanting to mouth off all the time, you know, and it's like nobody's actually listening to each other.
Well, that is a human thing. Well, I know certainly that trying to get people to listen to what I have to say is
well, that's what I've been so frustrating. Like, I'm trying to tell
that.
people this, and then they're going on about all this other stuff, and I'm like, you want to save children, you want to end this stuff. I've told you. Why aren't you listening? Why aren't you paying attention? But it's like they're just looking for the next thing and the next thing. I'll tell you another story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it's like the boat sinking, right? You know where the hole is, but they're trying to do everything.
Keep
else
chucking
but
the water
fix
out.
the hole, right?
More water again.
Yeah, it's like stop worrying about that hole and bail that water.
Just like this is on my mind, so I'll share it with you. Something like there was an article written about one of the talks that I'd given, and basically because of the group, the name of the group got written on a Stirling University newspaper. So basically, as usual, they'll take the picture and they say, "Oh, we're meeting without masks," and they called me a songster, so they didn't do much research into me. They've certainly never heard me sing. But anyway,
songster.
So
they must have confused you with Knob Stewart.
Or nothing like. So the girl who run the event, she sent me this link and saying, "Did this woman ask you for the pictures?" Because she credited Emma for them. But we said, no, they never asked for permission. So the next night, the same lady who runs the group and sent me that link, she made a video of all the pictures that I'd taken and Emma had taken, put on about this march, and then shared it in all these groups as if I was taking part in this march. And she knew that I wasn't supporting the march, and she knew the reasons why I wasn't supporting the march. And she never mentioned me in the videos and all this. It's just like, she's just asked me if I got permission. No, it's this march, the Scottish march that I never got invited to, and I said, you know, I didn't like the organiser and stuff. It's basically Save Scotland and, you know, no lockdown, no mandatory vaccines. It's just the usual noise they were making. And I said I wasn't supporting it, but she's put all my pictures and stole them and then made it look as if I'm supporting it. And, you know, sharing it, it's like, you're supposed to help, you know?
Well, look, dude. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad publicity. So maybe you need to make a porno.
I have, but I'm trying not to leak it.
Leak that out. Knob Stewart gets caught.
The CIA's got that shit on me. It'll come out at some point.
Yeah, fuckers. I know, like they think it's going to do something, huh? Like, what do we do this? I don't know, burn it. Yeah.
What's her name? Paris Hilton and stuff like that. It makes them more fame when their porn video comes out, you know? Make more money off it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgusting as well, you know, things. I don't agree with censorship and stuff, but the world we live in, remember back in the days, like having a porn mag was like hard to find and rare and you had to keep it. Now it's like the children get exposed to pornography. It's ridiculous. It's shocking.
The internet. Yeah, it's really bad. I don't want to know how bad it is. I hear it's really bad, and I suspect it's had a major effect on the millennials. Hey, I got to ask you, is that your girlfriend's toes sticking out the other corner right over there? That direction.
No, actually,
right
we noticed that last week in the last video. If you look at the video, you see her toes bouncing. We thought you sorted that one out. Last week she never had socks on. At least she got her socks on this week.
You know what she's got to do is she's got to put a little puppet.
That'd be our audience.
Puppet on her big toe there and have a little puppet sticking around her. Yeah, that'd be funny. No, seriously.
Yep,
anything to entertain your listeners, right? But, I know you have to have second. Well, you know, maybe we'll have to have Knob Stewart up here. But, well, you know, aside from this frustration, obviously you're feeling the same thing. But again, you know, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that are just feeling really down and they feel like they're being attacked, and they're focusing mostly on that energy. And at the same time, there's a lot of people that are really high right now. They're really elevated and they're confused about that. So that's where that emotion comes in on both areas. You know, when you're being faced with these really high highs and these peaks and these valleys, you have to, you can't get really super happy every time you reach a peak, and you can't get super upset every time you're in a valley, because the valleys are going to get deeper and the peaks will get higher, and you can't elevate those emotions, you know. So sooner you got to just keep it
It's
static
just,
somehow.
these days with all these conspiracy people, they're all spreading doom quite a lot, and it's like Bill Gates is coming after us, the world's going to end, it's all a nightmare, lockdown, blah, blah, blah. So no matter when you try and be happy and relax, at the back of your mind is like, shit's about to hit the fan. So it's hard to make plans, because I don't think we should be fighting the establishment, and basically, I think going down the Getty is the first thing we should be doing, because how else are we going to get off this hamster wheel that we're all on, And basically, that's what I'm saying. And how can we get people to get that message? Because anything else you think of is just a short term. Yeah, if you try to think of, we'll all understand the legal name, right? We'll all make the economy stronger, right? We'll all do this. It's just like, nah, it's not going to go anywhere, So we have to get down the tunnels, basically, and rat these people out. And it's going to be some kind of Battlefield Earth type movie scenario, And that's what's basically the realism.
Oh, yeah.
People they just don't see the big picture of that.
I mean, can you imagine how many tunnels you've got where you are right now? Just imagine. Imagine how many tunnels there are where you are. Right now.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge underground network, isn't it? All over the world.
Of course. Yes, of course. But over in the UK, up and down, back and forth, there's a lot of construction, relatively. I mean, the United States, they're spread out all over the place, of course, but in the UK, I think that it's relatively concentrated, and I also suspect, especially in Scotland, as you mentioned, I think it was last week, there's all sorts of ancient tunnels that have been there forever, and we know that the Crown certainly, and all the Masonic activity and everything that's been going on for generations. They've relied on underground passageways to conduct their ceremonies and stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure like London is probably full of tunnels. I mean, of every sort. People think of tunnels, they have to remember that there's foot tunnels and car tunnels and truck tunnels and train tunnels and super tunnels for submarines. And
just over the water from me here, where the River Forth is, just over there in Fife, there is it's called Scotland's Secret Bunker, and it was built apparently during the war. And there's amazing how nobody's seen this tunnel get built, and they actually let you in there. I've never been down, but my stepfather was there, and you're just wondering if they're showing you the full tunnel or just like the entrance part to it. But it's like, how did they build that? And if they're capable of doing that, then certainly is that the only one, And there's quite a big entrance to it. Apparently, it's quite a substantial building, or bunker.
Of course. Yeah. Well, it's like gophers, obviously, or whatever, some sort of burrowing mole type of critter. It's going to have entrances to their system all over the place, and exits and escape hatches, right? Viet Cong tunnels, same thing on a bigger scale.
Yeah. So you're suggesting everybody in every country basically has to find their tunnels, and we all go in together?
Ultimately, yeah. Ultimately. I mean, certainly, because, and this is like the message I was saying a couple of weeks ago, is that right now, we're focusing on humans, certainly, and trying to flush out the humans and rescue the children and, get the technology and the resources and do this before they can destroy everything. But at the same time, we know that we're going to be dealing with the reptilians and those guys almost immediately. And we are dealing with them now on this other level, of course, but eventually it's going to be those guys coming up from these tunnels. And when that happens, everybody in the world will need to be basically monitoring the situation in their own countries and dealing with it accordingly at the same time, like you say.
Yeah, I can remember you've mentioned them, and I've seen videos recently of Phil Schneider, who basically went down, and he said this alien, like, I don't know if it was pointed at his finger or something, but this blue beam came, cut 3 of his fingers off and made a big cut down his chest. I mean, I don't know if that was a reptilian he was referring to, but certainly if there's other creatures down there that can do this, how the hell are we going to...
I'll tell you how they do that.
And how can we combat that kind of technology if we've been de-armed ourselves,
Right. What they've done, they have a bone that can kind of come out of their arm. is sort of like a reptilian. They can stick this bone out.
It's like some Terminator kind of comes out.
Yes. Now what they do is it's sort of like Wolverine, you know.
Aye.
But anyway, the thing is, except that what I've heard is that they actually will take this bone, which is some sort of a ancient, physical weapon or something that comes with their body, and they will actually modify it so that they can attach some sort of, weapon, a beam weapon to this bone.
Okay.
So the idea is they can actually hide it in their arm. So when they're, doing that, probably it's not actually coming out of their finger. What it is that this bone's popping out. It's instead of a bone there, they probably remove a part of the bone and stick that thing there instead. So it's the thing that's going up in their body. So they've always got that thing there.
Right.
So I heard.
So we need to hold them down and get them off them.
We just need to be more of us, right?
Yeah, but what weapons do we have? We have to get the army and the police on our side and get our primitive weapons.
Nah, we're gonna kill them with our brains, man. We're gonna develop our psychic skill, and we're going to use that because that's our big advantage. They don't have that. We're all little Jedi, and we don't know it. And they've been doing everything they can to breed it and chemically remove it from us all the time.
So I know you're fighting them in the 4D with your alter Rambo, and you're recruiting people. Is that the war that you're talking about to kill them? What we just said about?
But eventually it's all going to be the same thing because these, like I said, we're going into this transition, and the idea is that they're sitting there on the other side waiting for us to kind of come into their territory. They can come in here now and take advantage of us, but eventually we're going to be there full time. They'll all merge, and that'll be like hell on earth, and it'll be one big barbecue for them. But and we'll be on the barbecue. We'll be on the menu. But the thing is that so in other words, the weapons and the methodology that we use to deal with them is probably going to be very much the same. But even on a third dimensional density level, densional. That's not even a word, but it sounds like it should be. But even on that level, I would say that we still have our guns. We still have a lot of us. It's just like a damn sci-fi movie. The alien may be very strong, but ultimately there's 250 million of them, and there's 7-8 billion of us. I mean, if we work together, we could probably overcome this issue once and for all. And yeah, a lot of us are probably not going to make it, but it's just, again, it's like a damn sci-fi movie. If everybody, in the end, we're going to overcome. And I suspect that, there will be people that are utilizing 4D skills like Jedi types, but there will also be people that are getting out there with their swords and their M16s and their AK-47s and their jet fires, whatever they can use. That's what it's going to get down to.
So do you think, obviously, for whatever's going to unfold, there's going to come a point where every human on Earth is going to know there is this presence there, and we have to deal with it real quick.
Real quick. Yeah.
I mean, do you think this is what this is? Do you think they're in some way, with all this lockdown nonsense and forced vaccinations, do you think that's them forcing the issue somehow to basically, because they've got all these marches and stuff now, the police are coming on, they're getting heavy-handed, so now the people are fighting with the police instead
they're
of...
trying to start a race war. They're trying to start civil war, race war, police state. They're trying to move in a police state, implement these fascist policies. Obviously, that's what they're trying to do. They've been trying to do this for a long time. And if you look at what they're doing in this country, of course, it seems every other day there's some black man getting killed, or a Trump guy shooting an Antifa guy, or an Antifa guy shooting a Trump guy. And of course, this is theater. And of course, it's meant to get people emotionally upset and excited and make them want to fight. But the fact is, it's just like, we know the COVID has fizzled out. People are waking up. They know that this is the biggest scam that they've ever perpetrated on humanity.
Yeah.
To think that they've taken a simple flu and told us we're all going to die. It's absolutely fucking insane to do something like that. And
that's what I can't believe.
Yeah, but that's failing. People are going to fight back because, believe it or not, most people are sooner or later they're going to break, and this is happening. And that's why they need to throw in this racial bullshit so that people will think that that's what they're angry about, and it's not because they're angry about something else. And that's why we have idiots like David Icke and company getting up there telling us that we're angry about, vaporous nonsense, as opposed to something like a physical structure that we can move in on, like the Bastille. Nobody has a Bastille. That's the problem. The Getty's the Bastille. We all need to have that physical structure to point out. Said we take down that structure, we win. They're not giving that to us.
Yeah, they're just giving us rhetoric.
Yeah, rhetoric. It's like, what do they say? You know what they're giving us? The Vatican. I hear this so often now. I mean, this is, of course, is a Jewish thing. I'll just go ahead and say that. I could say it's a Zionist thing or a Mason thing or a satanic thing, which is all the same thing. But basically, as soon as people start bitching about pedophilia or bitching about world control, they go, oh, the Vatican. Really? That thing that you foisted upon Christianity that said is controlling Christianity, that's your fucking control structure, but now you're going to blame it for all the pedophilia and all the satanic bullshit, when that's your guys that are doing that shit.
Yeah. And do you not think maybe the exposing of the Catholic priests and the payouts is like admitting the guilt, but somehow still controls the narrative in that?
Put that there. It's like you infiltrate an organization. You put the dirtiest people at the top, and then you only recruit dirty people, and it's just like police force. It works the same way. You don't get advanced and ahead in the police force by being a responsible, conscientious, compassionate police officer. No, you get it by being a dirty asshole.
Yeah,
that's how you get ahead. You got to be corrupt,
and in politics, and in entertainment,
and in politics. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right.
The whole game's rigged, big time. And the thing is, we're so limited, shut down in what we're actually capable of. So you think that we're now with this. We were talking about the oscillation. It's like our energy is rising, so we're going to be moving into the realms where these guys inhabit. So that's where the psychic war, we'll realise our powers more as we move into that.
Well, of course.
And
Tower of Babel, basically, is what it is. People think Tower of Babel, everybody could communicate. It's the same thing. When they took away, that's what the Tower of Babel scenario really is. They think, what is it that was removed? What was removed was our ability to use this psychic skill.
Well, they said it would basically, because we could all communicate at one there, and we tried to reach God, so he dispersed the people and their languages, confused their languages up. But do you think that just meant making us all
psychic skill? Took away the chakra, eighth chakra.
Ah, right, okay. So then, do you think we used words and language before then, or do you think it was all psychic communication?
Both.
All right.
People were more empathic, I think. Boy, I'm getting hot and hungry. What am I going to do? Anyway, okay. So, it's getting hot in here. Wow. 91 Fahrenheit. Let me see. What is that in centigrade? For all you centigrade people, it's 33C where I'm sitting. See that? 33. Anyway.
That's quite hot.
I know. That's indoors with an air conditioner and a fan going. Wow. Anyway.
Okay, man, if you want to...
No, man, I was told I had to wear this. If I couldn't, get a shirt on, because then people would say, oh, my God, he's, so unhealthy. No, okay. Anything else you want?
I don't know. I was actually saying beforehand what we're going to talk to you about. Again, there's so much stuff I could ask you, but I don't have anything in mind. I was actually going to just say to you, is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to go off your chest?
All right. Well, let me just share this with you, only because I have to try to give something to somebody that might be listening, to try to give them something to do. But first of all, obviously, we have a lot of Facebook pages that we had to create in lieu of the other QAnon group being taken down. And a lot of people that think that Facebook is a waste of time. Yeah, social media is a waste of time. But at the same time, if you can help out by joining these groups, even if you don't contribute, your presence will allow us to grow and attract more people and mess with the algorithms. So certainly we need to be able to do everything we can to mess with the algorithms and overcome the technology that's being used against us. Also, the audio book that we're coming out with, I'm probably going to have to do the vocal myself, which is going to take a little extra time, and I'm going to and may have an effect on the quality. But we're pretty excited about it, and I have to say the energy momentum just from the book getting out there in the world, and the fact that we are going to be making this audio book, and more people will be able to access it because of that. That's extremely exciting, and so I'm just going to say, we talk about the bad stuff, but energetically, there's some incredible good shit going on right now, and I think the whole reason why the enemy is coming up with this extraordinary fascist bullshit is because we're doing so good. So we really do have to reject these bastards like David Icke and all these people that you named. And I think, if anything, we need to call them out. And it's just like this asshole that hijacked this event where you're at, and the various people who support him. They need to be called out.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was a bit outrageous that I could speak for 4 hours and nobody would put me on a poll. And, even that girl, she shared that video of her pictures, but it was all over the Scottish thing. Why wouldn't one person nominate me or, ask me, just, do I want to be involved? It just seemed it was a bit suspicious, So, and then the fact that he's looking to government to solve it, and all the speakers that were there, to me, again, they're all just in the normal narrative, It's just wasting people's time.
They're not revolutionaries. That's all fake, that's for sure.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you do come from our level and you try and talk to people, they're just so far away from it. It's hard to kind of get them to understand.
Well, you got to be tricky. you got to be tricky. That's all there is to it, unfortunately. And you have to be subtle. And unfortunately, these guys are it's for them. It's not a matter of focus. It's a matter of confusion, and that's where you got to maintain your focus, and at the same time, you got to be subtle, and you've got to use a lot of reverse psychology, I think, with these people. Somehow.
Yep. Well, I'll keep promoting your book. I'll also, those Facebook groups, I'll share those links and try and get people involved.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Try to get people to do that. Obviously, the Twitter. I just need to. 26,000 people. That's not a really big number, but at the same time, it's going to take a lot of effort and time to get even close to where we were. So the sooner we can do it, the better.
Yeah, I heard you had a wee chat with Tony Colvert as well. Or you touched base
probably.
with him.
Yeah. I think I might have chatted with him. I can't remember.
So basically, we're thinking about getting a show going soon. So obviously, we'll have you on that, and if we can get good numbers for that, that'll help as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, well, that's really important. Anytime we can do anything like that, would be great.
Yep. So just if you've stayed with us this far, folks, just let you know if this video sync audio's not been too good, I'm sorry about that. We're working with the only system that we found that I can get Stephen on, because it's not using Google Chrome, and the other software I've got uses that, and he doesn't want to be spied on, funnily enough. So hopefully this one will be not too bad, and thanks for your time, and I'll let you go, Stephen, and cool down, and thanks again for
All right. Okay, I'll probably talk to you next weekend, God willing.
Man.
All right?
Sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Take care, bye-bye.